A short bibliographic note. In January 2000, Dr. Muche-Albrecht sent an email to the executive director of the Josephson Family Foundation in Victoria, British Columbia. She introduced herself and expressed a hope that her message would be forwarded to the descendants of Josef Conrad Josefsson, who had operated a bookstore in Munich until 1924 under the name of Conrad Josef. She then told the story of finding the self-help paperback version of The Song of Henry in Chicago and the manuscript of Das Heinrichlied among the papers of Elisabeth Forster Nietzsche, and how she had determined that the latter was clearly the source of the former, although the English translator, one Roger McAllister, had taken various liberties at key moments in the story. She described a visit to Grosau Abbey in Silesia, where an architectural conservator had laughed at her suggestion that there might be a secret cellar with a medieval Benedictine library hidden away somewhere. Based on her tour of Grosau Abbey and other evidence, Dr. Muche-Albrecht had concluded that Adalbert Kerr was the sole and primary author of Das Heinrichlied, although the work was clearly grounded in a deep familiarity with Middle High German poetry, and there may have been fragmentary sources in that language. She could only presume that Kerr had attributed his fiction to a medieval source to increase its potential audience, much as Macpherson, 100 years earlier, had claimed that his Ossian poems were translations from the Old Gaelic. In passing, she referred vaguely to another possibility, that Kerr was profoundly delusional and had translated a text that existed only in his own mind. Dr. Muche-Albrecht explained that her curiosity about the apparent existence of another copy of Kerr's manuscript in North America, presumably the source of the Song of Henry, had led her to the Josephson family, a connection she had discovered in an article about McAllister's 1992 book tour from a newspaper in Calgary, which had recently made its back issues available for searches on the World Wide Web. She went on to say that in addition to the manuscript, she had discovered several letters or drafts of letters from Adalbert Kerr to his friend Conrad Josef, a correspondent whom she believed was in fact the Munich bookseller and socialist leader Josef Conrad Josefsson. She reassured the Josephson family and their agents that the Goethe and Schiller archive had no interest in any intellectual property issues connected with the manuscript. She was merely writing as a scholar, interested in the friendship between Adalbert Kerr and Josef Conrad Josefsson. To be more exact, she was interested in the brief moment in German history when such a friendship was possible, a friendship between two ardent German nationalists, one an atheist and socialist Jew, the other a lonely romantic scholar drifting into the world of anti-Semitism. She asked for the cooperation of the Josephson family in continuing her research. In closing, she apologized for having approached the Josephson family directly. She had initially attempted to establish contact through Roger McAllister and his publishers, who had failed to respond to her inquiries. Then, almost as an afterthought, she mentioned that Das Heinrichlied had been published twice before. Both books had appeared during the Nazi era. She attached a short bibliographic note describing the two books. A scholarly edition, Hote F. Lehmanns Verlag, München, 1935, purported to be the true story of the walk to Canossa and featured annotations explaining the racial politics which a casual reader might otherwise miss amid the violent medieval poetry. An illustrated book for children, Der Stürmer, Nuremberg, 1937, portrayed all the bishops of the Catholic Church, especially Pope Gregory himself, as predatory Jews who perform unspeakable acts on children after making them drink poisonous mushroom wine. The children's version, which shared only the title and some rudiments of plot with Kerr's manuscript, had apparently been too much even for some Nazi leaders. It was denounced as vile, excessive, and unsuitable for youngsters by Goering, who immediately banned it. Himmler, on the other hand, was said to have found it laugh-out-loud funny and to have treasured his illegal copy. In addition to the bibliographic note, Dr. Muche-Albrecht attached a second file. This contained her own translations from German into English of the letters that Adalbert Kerr had written to his friend, whom he addressed as Conrad Joseph. She hoped that the letters would reach the grandchildren of Joseph Conrad Josephson, as she doubted that these letters had ever been sent, let alone received.